back. Episode 2 of Let's Be Real. I'm Tara.
I'm Sherry.
And I mean, do we have to say our names every time with LCSW? Well, they'll figure it out, right? I guess I just did.
It's on the title, so
it's in the show notes.
Right.
We have our licenses, y'all. So welcome back. Today, Sherry came in with a bit of attitude today, some Cuban attitude for us.
Yes. Sherry's got the attitude today. And I guess on that note, it reminds us that we need to say why therapists need a therapist.
Yeah.
And at the moment, Sherry doesn't have a therapist. So by the time we're done here, you might understand why Sherry herself needs a therapist.
And our therapist listening, Sherry is open for, I don't know, are you cash pay client?
I'm insurance or cash pay, whichever you need.
So we'll share her insurance information at the end of the show. Just kidding. So we can get you sorted.
Perfect.
I'm already set. I've been in therapy consistently. I'm very proud of myself for this. Consistently for almost 3 years now. Same therapist. See her monthly. I think she's listening. So shout out to my girl. I won't call her out by name, but
okay,
she knows who she is.
Give her some business.
Yeah, right. I think last I heard she was packed.
Oh,
her
good for
caseload is
her.
packed.
Good for her. Yeah.
But before we jump in, because you did ask for a little bit of a buffer before jumping into whatever was going on with you today, because I think we should talk about it, Sherry.
Uh-oh.
I did have something I wanted to buffer with, because I was playing with ideas of how we could start this thing of little like banter things we could do. So I came up with a would you rather. It's only one question for today.
All right.
But I think you'll like it. I think you'll
like
it. Well, you've heard it. It's would you rather fire a client or have a client fire you?
I would rather have a client fire me.
Yeah, I think that's an easy answer for me too. I agree.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to fire a client?
I guess maybe in the sense of saying, it might be time for you to take some medicine. And if you're not ready for that, then I don't know what else I can help you with. So that's happened once or twice, because by the end of we can do a lot in therapy, right? Sometimes there's certain things that if you don't have some meds on board, that we're not going to get further.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I feel like if you don't follow through with what we talk about, you don't want to make any real change. It's kind of sometimes my out, I know that sounds terrible. Forgive all of my clients that might be listening. But sometimes if, it has to be said.
Yeah. No,
so I'm okay with that. I would rather, in that particular situation, yes. I don't have any problem saying in that way of firing. But, I don't like to hurt people's feelings. It's a hard thing for me. But at the same time, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm an oxymoron, or as my children love to say, I'm a conundrum.
You're a conundrum.
I'm a conundrum.
Enigma. Okay.
Enigma. I like that better. Yeah.
We'll teach them that word.
Yeah.
I would much rather be fired than have to fire. It is so anxiety inducing. I have a few clients I've worked with for a long time. When we first started working together, I was reflecting and I was like, obviously very much having an imposter syndrome moment where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. They're asking for something and I have to research. I have to go to colleagues. I have to do just very normal therapy stuff. Like we have to use our resources, but imposter syndrome has its way,
of course,
of making that seem problematic and making me feel like less of a professional. Anyway, there would be sessions where I'm like, where the hour goes by the slowest it could possibly go. And I'm like,
those are the ones you probably should fire. Sorry.
But also, imposter syndrome aside, there was no reason I couldn't help them. They were either working through something that I have a lot of knowledge in, like eating disorders or generalized anxiety, stuff that wasn't necessarily difficult on its own, but I was worried about a personality clash where I want to be the sarcastic therapist or I want to bring something into it and they're either shooting me down or maybe not as enthusiastic as I was used to with my other clients that I was quote unquote looking forward to seeing. And then there was a moment where I'm like, when are they going to fire me? Are they going to let me go? Like it's okay. You can do it. And so I'll give them outs too. I'll be like, I don't think I'm working with anybody anymore that I'm thinking of. No. So I'm obviously not using names or anything, but thinking of who might listen to this and like, no, it's not you. Not you.
If you're listening, it's nothing to do with you.
No, these are former clients now that I'm thinking about it. But I'd be like, my specialty is in this. It sounds like you would really benefit from this style or that style. And they would shoot that. They're like, no, this is good. Really?
Right.
Are you sure?
There's been a couple times, same thing, where I've had video clients that at some point, like you call, you talk, and they say, everything's good. Everything's good. Then why are we talking?
Why are you paying me for this?
Why? Right. And they're private pay. Some of them have been private pay. And every week, but they tell you at the last 5 minutes of the call, oh, but I really realized that I'm a failure and I'm this and I'm that. So what I've been talking to you about for the entire hour as I'm trying to dig it out of you is, exactly what we started with.
I had a lot of my teenagers that would do that. What do they call them? There's a word for it. I think there's a phrase for it. It's like the doorknob or the
the door hand, the
doorknob confessions or something.
Exactly.
Like, by the way,
I'm getting divorced, but I told you my life was happy. Oh, see you later.
Yep. By the way, my no contact mother texted me the other day. Great.
Yeah.
Can you journal about that so we could talk about it next time?
Right.
That's all I got. That's all I got for you.
I agree. Well, that's the thing is that if I'm all for, I don't think that just because your world is crashing is the only time you need to come to therapy.
Thank you.
I do believe that if things are going well, we can still have a once a month or every other week or, every couple months check in. Or if everything's going great, that's okay. We can still talk about what happens when things are not, or how do you handle things going great? Because how many times do you have people that self-sabotage? And I guess that seems to be more of when I worked for other systems, it was more of that. Like if they were in court or they were in, other required things, they would always seem to sabotage themselves. But why is it that therapy is just for, I think that's getting better as I'm contradicting myself, but it is getting better. More and more people have told me that they do see that therapy is not just for when your world is crashing, right? I get that. But if you're going to come in and stare at me and, it's hard to keep pulling things out. And then I feel like, am I making this up for you? So that's a little hard.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm a big fan of maintenance therapy.
Yes.
I have a personal philosophy where I don't cancel on my therapist as long as I have the time. So right. I don't need to have a crisis of the week.
Good.
In order to process something. Like I got plenty to work on. So, and don't you do too.
And I know that was aimed at me along with the viewers,
it's camera eye contact.
Camera wink. Yeah. Well,
tell your loved ones they need therapy. It's my tagline for my business.
I like it. That's good.
Tell your loved ones they need therapy.
Right.
And it's the holiday season, y'all. Gift cards. I can give gift cards. We can make this happen.
Oh, for therapy. I think that's a good idea.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah, right. I posted my coaching business on a couple of like gift giving forums. I was like, why not?
Right.
It's also something that you wouldn't think to give yourself. There's always so many excuses. Maybe I work with a lot of people who maybe struggle with codependency or putting themselves after other people. And like, I can put off my own therapy. And if you know somebody like that, give the gift of therapy.
Amen. You too will be broke along with your child.
Right.
Or your
you
loved
could be
one.
broke too.
Well, I think that when it comes to us all having our own therapist, I think that we think after a while that, I listen to people's stuff all day long and I know what they're going to tell me if I go in and you know what? I'm doing it already. Yeah. Do everything right. But we don't. And I totally admit that when Sherry's unhinged, it's not good. So Sherry needs a reality check every now and then, not from my loved ones. I need it from another person. Yeah. So I get it. I need to get back in there and start seeing a therapist again. I'm not above it. I have done it before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is the time period where we are all feeling like mental health is a real important thing, right?
Yeah.
And we need to make time for it for ourselves and for everybody else. Because there's a lot of things about being a therapist that I think people don't see.
Sure.
The behind the scenes, the insurance companies, that they want us to be providers, but they don't really want to pay you correctly. They don't want to do those things. They don't want to, all the other fun stuff that comes along with billing. And
what do you mean they want us to be providers?
Well, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a lot of talk about how there aren't enough providers.
Right.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So if you want to accept people on your panels, then let's be prepared to pay them. Mm-hmm. Let's be prepared to answer the questions they have if they're not getting paid properly. And I'm going to be honest, and I will say that, there's some really great insurance providers, United Healthcare, Cigna, even the VA, Optum, amazing. They pay you well. There's no hassle, then there's some other ones that maybe I won't call out loud, but very frustrating.
Sure.
And so that I need a therapist alone just for that.
Yeah. To process my billing process.
Yeah. Yeah. The insanity of it. And it's nowhere near as bad as it could be, as it used to be. It's much better. But that one can send you into a tizzy, especially if I'm already in a bad mood to begin with. And
was that today?
That was today. For sure. For sure.
Oh.
So, yeah. And people in my office probably think I'm insane. So it's okay, right? When I'm saying in the background going, no, I told you this.
I think we're in good company if we're in shared office spaces with other therapists and case managers and providers, and
right?
Psychiatrists, if we're lucky. Yeah, I think you're in good company there.
Yeah.
You're pushing me further into my own corner where I don't like taking insurance.
Well,
I know it's certain providers. It's certain providers, certain insurers, but it's, a slight tangent. I'm just anti-medical model. I just don't like diagnosing.
Oh,
I don't
me too.
believe in it. Hence me going the coaching route. Not that I don't believe in it. Mental illness is real. The recognition is real. There's real access that comes from that. But if you're just having a rough life transition, like I shouldn't have to automatically give you adjustment disorder or any kind of acute PTSD, like any anxiety disorder or anything like that. Like, I disagree. If you're like, I just need to talk to somebody sometimes, and my husband, my wife, my roommate is a shit listener, great. That's what I like to get paid for.
That's what I'm saying, right? I agree. It's ridiculous. And I get that we want to be on a level like a doctor, but we're not a doctor.
Correct.
You don't see your doctor every week.
Right.
Hopefully. And if you do, then maybe we need to come and talk about that, right? So there's a lot of chronic stuff, a lot of chronic stuff. So I get it that insurance companies don't want to pay. And I get it that, all the other stuff that comes along with paying. And we want to be just as understood as a career as a doctor, right? We've spent a lot of time learning this stuff and using our skills that we have. And it's nice to be able to be paid for that. Right?
1,000%. Yeah. Last week we're talking about what we've had to go through to get where we are and try to validate our own profession. And I've actually had not a lot, it's been a few, but more than I expected, of clients who are surprised that I don't prescribe. And it's led me to the question of, if I could, would I? Like, if there was a track to become a licensed clinical social worker and a social worker, nurse practitioner, or whatever position that could come from that, would I do it? And probably while I was like, I'm going to get my license and I'm going to do this and then I'm going to become a qualified supervisor, which I'm probably still going to do, I probably would have gone down that route to just be that overachiever. But I'm really glad that's not an option.
I'm glad that's not an option. Right. Like where we can Baker Act versus some other professions, but I really would rather not to. I don't stand up and say, hey, by the way, I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I volunteer as being that go-to person. Yeah, no.
I've been in a lot of positions where I've been in the court and they've asked for, an attorney has asked for that. And since the judge can do it, of course, I'm going to let the judge do it. I'm not going to stand up on my feet and say, hey, sure, let me have that. There's responsibilities that we have that somebody who is a coach can come along and not have to worry about.
Exactly.
Right. And so why is it that people are willing to go to a coach? I'm not saying anything negative about a coach, right?
You're about to ask a phenomenal question. Keep going.
And they don't have to go through what we have to go through.
And
right?
I'm backtracking, right? I went through all of the process to get licensed. I am willing to do those roles. I prefer not to because it doesn't suit my personal philosophy of what mental health care looks like.
Agreed.
I think there is multiple angles to tackle mental health as a crisis, and I'm a part of that.
Right.
But I also want to work in tandem with psychiatry, with mental health providers who like to work in mental health facilities, right? In that capacity, I've never enjoyed that. When I've been in crisis work, I didn't enjoy that. Mobile crisis. I liked school-based crisis work. That was great, but I always had a team. Like I still was not the end all be all for decision making, right? So having that system of support, which of course that is now a new field of study within mental health support and with social work, I'm a fan of that. And I think there's room for coaching to work alongside case management, alongside therapy. Because none of my clients get both coaching and therapy from me. You get one or the other. And if my time runs out for me to provide coaching or therapy, I refer out.
Right. You don't just keep spreading it along.
I don't like doing that. I want to make a clear distinction. And that relationship is really important to me. And I think it's important to continue the integrity of what social work is. I have no interest in like completely tearing down this system.
No.
I want to make it better. But I'm part of what a lot of people would consider the problem in therapy is going the coaching route. And I recognize that.
No, but I think that because the way you're going on the coaching route is because you're helping athletes, right? You're helping a different population that unfortunately the insurance company is not going to recognize.
Right.
Right. And
they're not high risk, right?
Right. We have to wait till everybody's dying or, you don't just become bipolar at 45, right? So that's another problem. People making up diagnosis. And again, maybe that's another reason why I don't go to therapy because I don't want to know what their diagnosis they're going to give to me. Anyway, that being said, one of the reasons why do you go to therapy?
You asking me?
Yeah. Like why, not you like what are some of the challenges that as a therapist that you feel you should also be in therapy?
So I think my big thing that I'm comfortable telling anybody is that if I'm going to listen as much as I listen, I think I deserve the same in return. So instead of expecting a friend or my mom or a loved one to sit there and listen to me uninterrupted, sort of, I think that's very unrealistic. So it's an investment, right? The way I invest in myself, in my physical being, right? However I take care of myself in that way, whether it's medical, whether it's fitness, whatever. I think this is the same kind of investment for me mentally and emotionally. So emotional regulation, I could always be better with that. I could always be better with being conscientious of my responses to anything that happens. But primarily I got stuff to talk about. I just want someone to listen to me. It was one of the first questions that my therapist asked me. It was probably in the first month of us meeting. Or maybe it was right after like the crisis that caused me to go into therapy. Once that subsided, she was like, all right, so what do you need from me as your therapist? It's a beautiful question. I try to remember to ask my own clients as I onboard them that my answer was, I do want a lot of validation. I need reassurance that I'm okay. I'm doing okay. And if there's something I could be improving or looking into, I want to do that. But primarily, I want my experience to be somewhat normalized. Because for a long time, I felt like everything that I felt was just so over the top and so overwhelming. And it really wasn't. And I just needed that to come through. And
I like that.
3 years later, she's been coming through.
Good. I think that's great. I think because I did mention in the last episode about, clients have had the same therapist for 10 years and those kind of things. And I do understand that to a certain extent, right? When you come from the medical model, we don't think that way, right? You think of, okay, let me fix you and send you on your way.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not here to, like, especially if you're dealing with a family or children, right? You're not there to raise them or be their parent for them or co-parent. So I totally do believe in the idea of having that check-in, right?
Yes.
But I definitely do need the check of why do I do certain things.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a beautiful realization. I love it when I get there with my clients. And I love it when I'm sitting there silent for like 60 seconds in session, my own session, being like, oh.
Yeah.
I get it.
I think all this time, the reason why I haven't in a few years is because I feel like I get that feedback, even though they don't know what's going on in my head. But when I'm talking to my client and I say certain things, or I hear them say, especially when I'm talking to a male, right? And I hear them say things about their spouse or their things that they're dealing with a woman, right? And I hear, oh my gosh, that. Or I hear myself saying to a woman when they're talking about something and I say, why are you tolerating that? Or I'll say, why are you okay with that? Sometimes it comes back to me too. And then I ask questions and I don't like my answers in my own head.
Yep. That little self-reflection or that moment. I think we all do it. I think therapists do it. I think clients do it when they're explaining something and they're like, oh, I should take my own advice.
Oh, yeah. I tell my clients that all the time. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you that, by the way, I suck at this, but this is what you should do.
Like when clients push back not push back, but maybe they say, Tara, I need you to temper your expectations of me. I'm not going to journal every week. I'm like, good, neither am I.
Right. I have people come and say, you know what? I couldn't handle the homework that my previous therapist gave me. Okay. Well, what did they give you? Right. Because I tend to say, I will text them if they don't remember at the end of the session. I will say, if you want, I will text you what it is that I would like for you to do. Yeah. Most times I'm just asking for you to think through what you say.
Sure.
Right. And
I like that.
I think that that's probably the most important lesson, that none of us listen to ourselves. At least for me, I'm going to be totally honest, right? The idea of I want my clients to go through and say, by the way, what I just thought, is that worth coming out of my mouth? I've worked really hard on my filter. It's still really, like, there's a lot of holes in that bad boy. So as we continue all of this, you will learn more and more that my filter's really either really dirty or it's just fucking broken. Yeah. So, and I apologize that I will curse a lot on this.
I will not apologize.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of apologies that come out of my mouth on a regular basis. So I will not say I apologize for that, but I will say that, at the end of the day, every single one of my clients curses to me. And I will have a lot of people that say to me, pardon my French. And I'll say, listen, I'm fluent in French, that type of French. Okay. It is not a foreign language to me at all. Yeah. A lot of people, I have never had a client get offended to me for cussing. Yeah. But you may not want to come to a podcast and listen to someone say every 5 minutes, fuck. I don't necessarily like that. So I will try.
You don't want to overuse it.
I will try to refrain. But there's sometimes at the end of the day when you've made a certain amount of phone calls or you've listened to a certain amount of things and you just want to get in your car and scream, fuck. Right? Yeah. So I'm having that day.
There was a time when I had my 30-minute commute each way. I had a playlist. Because it was either silence, depending on whatever kind of day it was. And this was not every day, God bless, where it was either silence in the car for that 30 minutes so I could decompress and be home when I needed to be home, or it was a very angsty, angry playlist. And it was fantastic. And that's been an intervention I've used before, is we're going to curate your perfect playlist for whatever mood you're trying to either get rid of or put yourself into.
Right.
Because there's a time and a place, like, especially, I feel like I'm going to be talking about my school-based experience a lot because it taught me so
absolutely
much. But when it comes to cursing and music, look no further than teenagers. They're amazing at both of those things.
That's so true.
So cursing was every 5 seconds on the 5 seconds working with teens, because I had a rule where as long as you're not being disrespectful towards others with your language, it's allowed. It's absolutely allowed. It's expressive. There's research that, you know, when you stub your toe and you exclaim, fuck, shit, whatever, like there is some exiting of that stress from your body. It's fantastic. So who am I to deny that to a 16-year-old?
Right? Well, the thing is, we're trying to teach them how to regulate their emotions. And if we continue to tell them over and over again everything that they're doing wrong.
Or don't. Or tell someone to not do something or to stop doing something, and watch how well that works.
Right. That's the same thing with, like, I have a lot of clients who can't sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And you have this idea of, oh, my head won't just stop. I try to go to sleep and the thoughts just keep coming.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, what do you usually say to yourself? They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean say to myself? Like, well, what are you saying to yourself? Are you telling yourself to stop? They're like, yeah. I keep saying to myself, shut up already. I can't handle these same thoughts over and over again. I said, so your mind is telling you back, I have so much more for you.
Watch me.
I have so much more, right? So if it's got to have something to think of, right? So why not put it to something else, like breathing or listening to the sound of your fan or something, right? It's got to have something.
You know about Spotify Wrapped, right? This time of the year, Spotify
comes
out with
I got an email, yes.
Yeah. So it'll tell you top podcasts, top artists, top songs. And there's a TikTok trend where people are recognizing, they're like, oh, so excited for my Spotify Wrapped. And then they realize that they listen to fan noise on Spotify all night.
I love it.
And they're oh, yeah, this isn't going to be that interesting of a Wrapped. This is just what it is.
That's awesome. But you know what? How much do we put in our brains? Why do we have so much in our brains? Why is every single person, I mean, like at least 95% of my clients can't sleep unless they're on Ambien or other type of drugs.
Sure.
So what's our problem? Why can't we stop thinking? I don't know.
Do they all struggle with some form of anxiety?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So
that seems to be a factor with my clients that struggle with sleeping. I don't have quite that percentage of my caseload that you do. So but all of those that do struggle with sleeping have anxious thoughts.
Oh yeah.
They're invasive, right?
Of course, right. So if I can't sleep, I'm going to be a shitty person all day long. I don't care, right? If I can't get any sleep, then nothing is going to work for me,
sure.
Right? So, I mean, I know that's a tangent that I'm going on, of course, but because you'll learn that Sherry loves tangents. But the idea is that we all live in this too much, this overwhelm. We're all overwhelmed.
Yeah.
By everything, even stuff that we overwhelm. We're the reasons why we're overwhelmed. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Who told me I had to do that? I have to have this. I have to have that. Why do I have to make this much money or not? I make too much money. So I'm elitist and I'm like, I'm not this. I'm not that.
The shoulds, the what ifs.
Yeah. Fuck them. Yeah. I just can't take it.
Yeah. No, rather not.
Right.
So just stop, Sherry, just stop having those thoughts and everything will be better.
Good. So you understood what I said. Okay, got it. We clearly are on the right.
Did it work?
No, it didn't work. It didn't work.
It's not going to.
It's not going to.
Yeah. It's the cycle.
So since we're on this, I'm going to make you the guinea pig, right? Since you're the one with the therapist and I'm not. I'm going to say to you that what what does your therapist say to you that you haven't already told yourself?
That's a good question. At this point, I wouldn't say it's predictable because I do ask her genuine questions where I'm like, where is this going? But when she says it, almost everything she has to say is somewhat familiar to me. I'm either resistant or it's what I don't want to hear.
Okay.
Which is why I hired her.
Exactly. Is it something you've already heard from her, or is it something you've already heard from you told that to somebody else and you're not taking it on board? Or is it that I know these things and I just don't know how to make them work for me?
Most of the time it's I know of these things and making it suit me. So I don't know if this happens to you, but in session, any given week, I feel like it's a themed week with all of my clients who have no relation to one another. I don't do group therapy right now. So I'm giving the same homeworks for a couple of weeks. And last time I was giving homework that my therapist had given me.
I love it.
To read a certain book or to look into a certain topic.
Right.
This book, extremely familiar to me. I have not read it, but I know it well. And the topic I know extremely well. I mean, it's attachment theory.
Right.
It's super common, very popular, great basis for a lot of stuff. And that week, it's the law of attraction, right?
Totally.
I have so many clients that are like, so how do I deal with this? What's my answer for this? And I'm like, well, let's do some psychoeducation. Let's do some background. Let's go down this little rabbit hole. And that happens for lots of things, not just specifically this, but every month at least there's like one or two themes that shows up.
Oh, absolutely.
So to answer your question, I have a tendency to pre-therapize myself going into therapy.
Okay.
Especially the last few sessions, I haven't had a specific direction. It's just been the general talk about things, like attachment theory and how it applies to me. So going in already knowing the framework, and I already know the stuff that I don't want to talk about, which means I need to talk about it.
Exactly.
So when she tells me things or gives me suggestions or recommendations or asks me, reflective questions, sometimes it's very foreign. Like I really have to dig, but the answer is never really that far away from where I already was.
Yeah.
It's accessible. It's just maybe uncomfortable or, just usually uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. I bring that up so other people, thank you for being the guinea pig on that. I say that because not just because I need to know like for when I go in, but also so other people understand when they go to therapists that, you know what, we're human and we're all dealing with the same thing. Right. I have a degree. Yes. I've talked to probably thousands of people at this point in my life. And I have the answers maybe for you if they work in your life, in your position, in your situation, but I don't always have the answers for myself. So I always use the idea of the shoemaker's kids have no shoes, right? Like we are looked at as, wait a minute, how can that be going on in your life? You're a therapist. You should have it together.
Boy, do I hate that stereotype.
Right?
I hate it. I hate
right?
it so
and
much.
we think that, we think that's probably for every career, right? If your person in your life is a computer person, you'd think that they should be fixing everybody's computers at home too, right?
Gosh.
Well, right. They probably never want to look at that again when they get home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's work, right?
Right.
The movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Russell Brand's character, he's a musician and they're on vacation in Hawaii and he's a very famous musician. You've seen the movie.
Yeah, I have. It's been a while.
So he's on vacation with his girl and they're at this party, banquet, whatever, put on by the resort. And one of the resort employees is super excited for this musician to be there. So he's like, oh, I set up the stage. Like, you can go up and perform. And as Russell Brand's character is going up on stage, he's like, this is like work for me. I don't know why you think this isn't an opportunity.
Right.
he's not having a good time. So
that's awesome.
The classic question that I'm sure every therapist gets is when you tell people you're a psychotherapist, they're like, oh my God, are you analyzing me right now?
Yes. I hate that. Because you know what? I can't separate who I am. When I walk into anywhere, I am the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not like most people. I don't compartmentalize. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the therapist you're going to get. This is the employee you're going to get. This is the wife you're going to get. This is the right. I mean, I may have a different ability to keep myself a little calm,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm with my client that I may not have at home or I may not have somewhere else. Right. But when it comes down to it, I don't change those for other people. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
So
I'm a social worker 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Like I am in my heart was always a social worker.
absolutely. Me too.
But when I get that question,
Right. Because when you get that question, people are looking at, why are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Are you judging me?
well, I take them right out of that moment.
And what do you say?
Do you want to know my hourly rate? Like,
Right?
are you paying me right now?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're paying me right now, we can talk. And I can give you some notes to leave here today, but it'll be extremely unethical.
Right. You won't want to know the notes I have for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if they're with friends, oh my gosh, just popping everybody's egos in front of me. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
You're
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh
awesome.
yeah, you're going to need a few hours with this guy. I'm like, oh yeah, let's hear this.
Exactly. It's like, that's what you get for saying it.
Sure is.
Yeah. Like
Sure.
when I was doing online dating a while ago, and I learned really quick not to put that on my
Oh yeah.
profile that I was a therapist. Why? So that's why the dates start out that way, right? Or
I always put mental health professional.
Okay.
Yeah. Left it at that. Or entrepreneur, which I didn't like leaving. I didn't like having that title. I
Oh.
usually just left it at mental health professional.
Oh, I like entrepreneur because that says like you're shipping items to another country illegally, or that says that you're that says all kinds of stuff. Like that means I want to have a job, but I don't want to work for anybody. So I'm gonna make up some shit.
I mean, that's not completely far off.
Sorry.
I made it work for myself. That's exactly what I went out to do. But that shipping example being the first one that came into, we're gonna
Yeah,
we're
right.
gonna
The
leave that.
import
So
export business.
What does that say about Sherry that was the first example she thought of?
Right, exactly. Well, I go back to that date to myself of people saying that I'm an import export person.
Oh yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. Accounts payable. What does
Accounts
that
payable.
mean?
Yeah.
So, well, this was good. Do you feel better, Sherry?
I do. Thank
Okay.
you. I do.
Good.
See, that's why I just need somebody else to talk about.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, we all do, right? We all need somebody else. I guess I just need to pay somebody else.
I keep saying it's an investment. I mean, and it doesn't have to break the bank. You already said you're willing to go through insurance. So
Yeah. Either way, even if they didn't take it, I would. If I found a good therapist, I'd pay cash.
yeah. I firmly believe in a personality.
Oh yeah. If you don't
alignment.
connect, you don't connect.
Mhm.
I totally agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I am not the therapist for everybody, and everyone is
Right.
not the client for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
I
And
completely agree.
I like it that way.
Well, and I think that that's fair, right? That's absolutely fair, because at what point do you say, I can't help everybody?
Right.
I don't have to be for everybody. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that shiny little student, I'm going to change the world.
Oh, that's rubbed
thing.
off a long
Oh,
time
that
ago.
got buffed real
Yeah.
quick.
But that's kind of part of what our podcast is about, right? Not that
Mhm.
we're going to change the world, but just through our discussions, being able to figure out, how do we make this better, right?
I'd like that.
I have so many clients that say, I don't know how to fix the problem. I just know that there's a problem. Okay, that's great. We know that there's a problem. We're all on the same page,
I
right?
can work with that. Yeah.
Whether it has to do with the mental health system, the criminal justice system, all of it, they all seem to blend into each other, right?
Yeah.
The insurance system, the medical model system, all the fun stuff. Yeah.
Systems.
Systems.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about wrapping there for today?
Sounds good to me.
This was really good. I feel really productive in this one.
Okay, good.
So for everyone listening, we love feedback. We want questions that we can pose to each other. We want visitors, guests. We want involvement. This
Absolutely.
is not the Sherry and Tara show. It is right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. So we have our Gmail, which is let's be real with Sherry and Tara at gmail.com. All of this will be in the show notes too. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. That's a lot.
Totally.
At let's be real Sherry and Tara. So find us, connect with us, follow us. We want to hear from you. We're really excited to see how this connects with people other than just the two of us.
Right. Let's shake some stuff up together.
Yeah,
Right.
and give my therapist a break. Like reassure me. Give me some affirmation that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm okay.
Right. But you know what? We all need that, right? And we shouldn't have to try to get it from just our family and friends. We should have somebody else tell us that, you know what? You're not alone.
Yeah.
And this world, we're all going through the same, something similar. It's just a different page in the book.
Yeah.
So.
Different shades. Yeah. We want to provide a service that actually is worthwhile. So
Absolutely. So come help us do that, please. I would love to see some funny questions so we don't have to keep making it up ourselves.
give us content.
Give us some content. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know about? What do you want to complain about?
Yes.
I'm down for hearing that.
I am so down for a bitching session.
Sure. Give it to us.
Down. All right, y'all. Until next time.
Let's be real together another time.